Good morning to all. Today is the last day of our FDP. Today's speaker of this session is G. Ganesh. He graduated from Department of Mechanical Engineering, BMSc, in the year 2019. He has represented college and exhibited prototype of stereolithographic apparatus at IMTEX. This is a flagship event for the Indian metal forming industry. It is Southeast Asia's apex exhibition, showcasing the latest trends as well as technologies refinements from India and other global players. He has worked on building digital twin of 6DOF and object detection architectures. He has also built AI systems for aiding cancer detections from CT scan of lungs as part of final year project. He is a mentor at ATL, Atal Tinkering Labs, an approach of Central Government of India to create an environment of scientific temperament, innovation, creativity among Indian students, and encouraging students' idea by technical support. He is currently working at LAS Innovation, which is a company formed in 2018 by his friend Rahul, which is incubated by BMSC. We welcome you, Ganesh, and over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words. So, the topic that I'll be discussing today is the issues with the SLA or stereolithography DLP machines. Uh, Before I start, I'd like to talk about myself a little, like for 2 minutes. So, I'm Ganesh. I'm proud to be a graduate from BMSC. Uh, this is a project that I've showcased in MTechs, like ma'am told. Uh, So 3D printings were an intriguing thing for me back in my pre-university days. I was trying to
Hello,
build
Ganesh.
this. Yeah,
Ganesh, sorry
yeah,
for
ma'am.
the interruption. A bit louder, please.
Okay, okay.
Huh? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So 3D printers were an intriguing thing for me back in my pre-university days. I was trying to build an FDM device. I'll explain what an FDM device is. Didn't have enough resources that time and support. I was able to finally build one during the second year of my study, engineering study in BMS, with help of my friend Anvesh and mainly Professor Shrikant and TechWhip too. This is the machine that I'm showing here is a SLA DLP device that can print parts up to resolution of 100 microns. So these are the few parts that I printed from this device. Um, yeah. So here are a few other projects that I've worked on. So this is a 6 DO of a degree of freedom pick and place manipulator, and this is controlled by a digital twin like the one you see on the screen. So you can change orientation in the digital twin and you can see the result on the physical part, and conversely if you change anything on the physical part, that will be seen on the digital. So this is a uh, really helpful device in the industry wherein you can control these bot remotely. And I've also worked on feature recognition. So you can see the first image is phase one, and the image in the middle is a patch, what you call a patch image. So automatically it will look into the feature of the face from the image one and image two and replace that with the patch image. And I've also worked on detection of cancer cells in CT scans of lungs. For this, we have taken 10,000 examples and which were annotated by 4 experts. So basically 40,000 examples, and we have trained a artificial intelligence network. So you can see the ground truth on the left side, which was an annotation by an expert, and here on the right side is a prediction by our model. So you can see the one in the red, so has maximum which is 0.97, and others are the possible detection from the detection model. So I would also like to talk about the company that we are working on. So during my 4th year, I met Rahul. Since then, so Rahul is the founder of this company, LA's Innovations, which is incubated by TIIE BMSE. At LOS, we make students industry ready by imparting practical experience and developing their team dynamics. We are basically into designing drones for surveying and mapping. So these are the few proof of concept that we have built. The drone come under micro category, which is the drones that weigh less than 2 kgs. As of now, these drones can do photogrammetry and pseudo 3D reconstruction from captured frames. So we fly this drone, capture few images, and just from those images, we can approximate a 3D reconstruction, and this is what it looks like. And we're also developing LiDAR systems for 3D mapping, wherein instead of these approximations, we can see exact distances. So main application of this would be in construction industry for producing topographic survey. So as you can see, right now they use something called a total station, the one on the right that you can see. So for this, you'll need 2 persons to operate. One will be looking from the total station, another person will be holding a scale or a prism in order to get the measure elevation data. On the left, as you can see, the elevation data is represented as a contour plot. So these are called contour lines. On each line, the elevation will be represented. So the main purpose of topographic survey is to collect survey data about the natural and man-made features of the land, as well as its elevations. Yeah, so coming to introduction of DLP printers. So like I would like to share this story, like how I met Professor Srikanth and then how I built the SLA. So one day I got to know that our college has bought a new 3D printer and I wanted to print something nice. So I modeled a cube on CAD modeling software. Back then we were using SolidWorks, which was a part of our course. So I modeled a cube, simple cube. And then I didn't know in what format the cube has to be saved so that I can print it. So this is the first time I met Professor Srikanth sir, and he told me that you have to save this model in .stl format. So that's when I printed something for the first time, and then I discussed about my interest in building one of these printers with Srikanth sir. So we did research onto how to proceed. And then one day Srikanth sir is like, these printers are old now. It's ubiquitous also. You can see it literally everywhere. So why not build something better? So that was a trigger point. Then we looked into how SLA DLP machine works. And with his help, we got the funding from a college. And we were lucky to work with a customer, closely with a customer who was a jeweler. I'll explain about what we did. So coming to printers, like just for the contrast, I'll explain what an FDM is. So FDM stands for Refused Decomposition Modeling. As you can see here, it's more like a hot glue gun. So there will be a plastic material that comes out of the hot end or the build end, and you move that in 3 different dimensions so that you end up with an object. And this is done by a layer by layer approach, as you can see. So this is something that has already picked up space in the 3D printers industry. Like you can see this literally everywhere, and it's least expensive also compared to other 3D printing processes. So this is what an SLA would look like. So instead of a filament coming out of a particular end, here you will have a vat or a tank in which you will have resin, and you use a laser source to cube this resin. So liquid, depending on the exposure from the laser, will convert into a solid. So this is called a build platform, and the one you see is a build plate, and it has a transparent bottom, which is made up of a special filament. I'll explain what that filament is. So this is a resin, photocurable resin. So this is how it would look. And after the process of building, you have to cure it. So that was dipped in isopropyl alcohol so that you can get rid of external attachments. And then you just saw the person cut the supports. And the benefit with this printing process is you have a lot of material options. You can see this one is a hard resin and this is a castable resin. So I'll talk about this. Like as I told, we were working with a customer who was a jeweler, and we can also print rubber from this, transparent materials, and a lot. So in SLA, there are few varieties. So the first one would be laser SLAs. So the one you see here is a galvo scanner. There are two set of mirrors, two mirrors that you can see, and the light source is controlled by these two mirrors. So basically, in FDM, you can see the hot end move in three different dimensions. Similarly, the laser is moved in a two dimension first. Like basically, it's more like drawing something. So the laser end is moved. So depending on the exposure areas, the resin is converted into a solid part. So in DLP, the advantage is instead of drawing the whole thing. So let's say you want to print a circle. So you'll have to draw that, like have to cover the whole surface. So instead of moving it around many times in SLA laser, in DLP, all you have to do is flash that image. So in a single shot, you just flash that image onto the bottom of the tank. Like I showed, the tank has a bottom which is transparent. So you use a projector or an LCD screen or any other. I'll explain what are the options we have got. So use that. You use so in this slide, I've used a projector. A projector projects this particular image onto the resin tank bottom, and only that part is solidified. So the first one that I explained is a stereolithography laser, wherein you use galvo scanner, move around that laser, and solidify the resin spot by spot. And the other one is a DLP, digital light processing, in which you can use a projector. And instead of drawing the image, you can flash that single image, and all the area that are exposed to this particular light will solidify. And you have another option where you can use LCD screens. So the devices that uses projector will be so you can see, I'll show you the projector, a height of the projector, depending on the focus. Like if the projector is a short throw projector, then you can see the height of the whole device will be a little more. Wherein when you use an LCD display, the whole device is compact. So in LCD DLP projectors, we use a mask that is a LCD matrix, and you will have a source at the bottom. And depending on your image, the matrix will open up those spots so that if you want to print a square, let's say, in the matrix, only those region responsible for square will be transparent. The rest of will be opaque. So the light will only pass through the transparent ones and hit the resin and solidify it. So coming to the parts in the DLP, so you can see there's a build platform. So this is the only moving part in the printer. You saw in FDM, it has to move in 3 dimensions. Here in this DLP printer, there's only movement in, let's call it Z axis. And in order to obtain an object, you should have material in X, Y, and Z axis. The material in X and Y axis is provided by the projector, as you can see. So there is build platform assembly, then there is a VAT assembly, and then there's a projector assembly. So how I went about building this? So first, we built a 3D model of as to what the product would look like. So for this, we were lucky to have 3D Experience, which is a very helpful CAD modeling software by Dassault System. In BMSC, we had a we have a product innovation lab wherein they train us on 3D Experience tool. So before actually fabricating the product, we built it on 3D Experience. This is what it looks like. So you can see, so the one in blue is a cantilever beam, and the platform with the perforations is a build platform, and you can see VAT or the tank wherein resin is placed, and this is a guide rods, and then there's a screw rod. So here are a few pictures of the stages of fabrication. So once we were ready, like finalized on the 3D model, we built. So you can see these parts, the corners. So we had, so from this particular model that we have built, we already had a model of the corners. So it was easy for us to print. So we printed these corners from an FDM machine and assembled it. So here are a few more photos of fabrication in process. So coming to the main topic, which is the issues in building this device. Okay, so the first one would be design of the cantilever. So the cantilever is exposed to many loads. So here is a simulation. So like I previously showed, this is a model, and we simulated that in 3D Experience tool, and we found out the maximum displacement that is obtained, and then we finalized on the thickness of the cantilever and the height. So talking about the forces that come in picture, so the cantilever is subjected to many loads. So the one would be the weight of the part, obviously the weight of the part that is stuck to it. The other load that comes into picture is a layer separation force. So I'll have to explain what that layer separation force is. So, which I'll do in few minutes. So explaining SLA in whole. So saying the first thing we have to find out is the curing time. So we have a resin in the tank. So the resin is made of a monomer, a catalyst, and a photoinitiator. On exposure of these photon, which is coming from the projector, the monomers, they bond in order to form a polymer. So in a sense, saying they transform from liquid state to solid state on exposure of the photon from DLP source, which is the projector. So the projector uh, uses a xenon arc lamp in this case. So the first thing that happens is uh, we print, before printing the whole part, we print something called a attachment layer, or we also call it a burn-in layer. So this is what burning. This is what we call as burn-in layers. So like most 3D printing process, it's done layer by layer. So this approach of printing is called bottom-up approach. So wherein the bottom of the whole part is lifted up for the first time. So that's what it's called. Yeah, so this first layer that we're going to print, the first layer that we're going to print will have, yeah. So here you can see the one in blue is the FEP sheet. As I told you, that's a transparent special sheet. And the one in red is the build platform, which is made of aluminum. So when we're printing the burning layers, we will have to have the exposure time a little more than the curing time. Curing time is the time required for the monomer to bond into form a polymer. So we use burning layers so that it sticks to the build platform aluminum firmly. So we do that because there are problems. So when we have the main problem is when we have more and more layers coming onto the model, the separation. So yeah, so when separation, coming to the separation part. So so let's say we are printing a cuboid. So when we chop this cuboid into 1,000 layers, it would appear like a square, let's say a rectangle. So the rectangle is projected from the projector onto the FEP sheet. So the solidified monomer should stick to the build platform. So, but what happens is, since we are over curing it, so over curing is for the burning layers or attachment layers. So when we over cure it, the cured resin sticks both to both the surfaces. The surface one being the aluminium build platform, surface two being the FEP sheet. So then what happens is the build platform is lifted up, as you can see in the picture two. So when you lift up, this FEP is flexed. So it flexes and there will be that force of sticking of this cured resin to FEP. So you have to, it's more like a tug of war. So there are forces. It's a constant battle of tug of war between the build platform and the FEP film. And we want FEP film to lose all the time. So yeah, so this small amount of flex helps in the cured resin to peel off slowly from the FEP. So here there are many other issues also. I'll talk about the velocity of the lift later. So when you lift this, you can so once the whole layer gets separated from FEP, you can hear this FEP sheet pop like drum skin. So you can hear that small pop. And as you can see in image 3, it's completely separated. So, so the cantilever also have to take in consideration of this separation force. That is that extra force that you need to pull that cured resin from FEP. So considering force and the self weight of the object, we design the cantilever. So coming to the next issue, finding the curing time. So curing time, as I told you, is a time required for the monomer to become a polymer. So we have, so this is unique for a given pair. So the pair I'm talking about here is pair of resin and the light source. So we had two projectors initially. Basically, we had experimented with two light sources or two projectors. So we found, so you can see part one and part two were printed from the light source one, which, so we didn't have the right wavelength matching with the resin so that it could cure properly. So one and two is an undercured part. Even at the maximum brightness and luminous flux of that particular projector, it could not cure the resin completely. So, so the parts that you can see 3, 4, and 5 were printed are the result from experimenting with the projector, second projector, which had the right wavelength, and this uses a xenon arc lamp. The first projector used LED light source. So the xenon arc lamp had a right UV wavelength, which could cure this resin. The resin that we used for this experimentation was Maker Juice SF, and it's a very famous and available. It's still available in market. So, so we had to look into different uh, brightnesses of this particular projector so that we could end up with the very fine print. So yeah, coming to the design of the vat. So vat is a tank that holds the resin. So we want the vat. So we have this vat has a transparent bottom, which is made up of a special film called FEP. FEP stands for fluorinated ethylene propylene. So this is a special sheet that has two special properties. So property one being it's highly inert and it's a non-stick film. So so we were talking about the tug of war between this film and the build platform. So we don't want the cured resin to stick into this FAP. So if the curing resin sticks to FEP, our whole print fails. We can't have the coming layers built onto the next layer. It will merge with the old layer and you won't end up with a print. So yeah, so we want these VAT to have the easily replaceable FEP. So FEP has these minute pores. So these pores are oxygen permeable, and oxygen is something that prevents polymerization. So preventing polymerization meaning uh, liquid not getting converted to solid. So that in turn means not sticking to FEP. So that is one. And what happens is after many prints, these pores get clogged. So when the pores get clogged, what happens is the non-stick property of the FEP, it deteriorates, and that's when you have to replace this FEP. So this is how simple FEP VAT looks like. So so we have these side walls, and the one in the middle that you can see is FEP film, and the one in the bottom that you can see is a gasket. So we used lot of screws to tighten this VAT FEP to the VAT. So this is a very important one because there are many issues. So thing one would be FEP not flexing. So when we fix this FEP sheet onto the VAT, it shouldn't be very tight. If it's over tightened, this flexing effect, as you can see in the image too, that flexing does not happen. So like one of the tip would be, it should, when you tap on the, after the tightening of these film onto the VAT, it should sound like a drum skin when you tap on that. So you can hear that small pop. Shouldn't be very tight. The other issues with the curing would be the resin not sticking to build platform. So in that case, what we can do is uh, we can increase the traction on the build platform. So we found that using a sandpaper and making a lot of scratches on the build platform helped. So that made very small dents on that aluminium, and monomer could go and stick in that region. And yeah, the addition was good. So this resin is highly sensitive uh, to sunlight. So you're not supposed to open this resin or take it to the sunlight. You have to store it in uh, 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. And this particular resins have shelf life. So if you keep it for longer duration, which will be mentioned by the manufacturer, so it loses its property if you store it without using for long run. So basically, what happens there is the monomer, which is mixed with the photo initiator and the catalyst, the mixture, there's a separation in the mixture. So in total sense, it's no more photo curable, and it starts forming lumps. Like sometimes there's a possibility that it will cure uh, with uh, will cure with the available UV from the environment. You're not supposed to keep it open for a longer duration also. So as you can see here, uh, so the printer was covered completely. Yeah, so the whole printer was covered so that there is no UV light entering. So if the UV source enters the resin, then it might end up solidifying the resin that is in the tank. So yeah, so another issue here would be sometimes FEP will have too much grip on uh, the cured layers. So in that case, what you can do is either change that FEP, or you can clean the surface of FEP with the isopropyl alcohol. This FEP is very much similar to PTFE tubes. PTFE tubes are used in FDM printers. Near the nozzle, you have these PTFE tubes. We use this so that the melting FDM filament doesn't stick to the metal walls. So if you open up that same PTFE tubes and flex into a sheet, that becomes an FEP. It's just made of similar materials. So another issue here is the build platform has to be leveled. So like you can see in image 3, it has to be exactly parallel to the plane of the FEP sheet. So if there is any shift then there is no sticking of monomer onto the build platform, and your print fails. So there are other issues which are okay. So before that, I have to explain what a suction cup is. So there's something called suction cup effect of the printing parts. So well, imagine we have a bowl with water, and we have a glass that is placed in that bowl upside down. So when we try to lift this glass, there is the liquid gets inside the glass, and there's that suction, there's that drag produced. You'll have to apply a little more force to pull that glass out of the liquid. So same thing happens with the prints. So we should not have prints that have hollow parts like this. So when you're placing, like orienting this print, you'll have to take care of that. I'll explain what that is later. So ideal printing process would be, so you're not going to print the whole object directly. So the first thing that you're going to print is the attachment layer or the burn-in layers, and the burn-in layers will have support materials. So I'll show how that looks like. So this is how it looks like. So here on the left bottom, you can see support material. So there's a reason that I didn't place this particular object, that's the wing, parallel to the plane of the build platform. So you can see the build platform is made of aluminum, and you can see a lot of scratches also. So we do that to increase the traction, and that helps in sticking of the monomer to the build platform. So these support materials are printed, and yeah, so there is a reason of placing this particular part in that orientation. So we want to reduce the surface contact so of the part. So that being said, uh, the layer separation force you need, if the contact surface is more, the layer separation of force increases. So then there is like the surface will have a harsh ridges on it. So when you try to pull the force, if the contact area is more, then you can have that. Then basically saying the part won't have a smooth finish on its surface. So that is why we keep it in this orientation. So sometimes when the part does not stick to the initial layers, burning layers, does not stick to aluminum build platform, we use these burning layers with the higher contact area. Here you can see we used circular contact areas. So in cases where the object is heavy or bulkier, we'll have to go with attachment layers which have higher contact areas, and the layers will also increase. So another issue in this printer would be the velocity of the lift of build platform. So let's say we have started printing. So the first thing that it's going to print is attachment layers. As I told, depending on the attachment layer area, the velocity changes. So if the attachment area is more, then there is more force to be applied by the cantilever to separate it from FEP. So this process has to happen really slow. Yeah, so if you do it very quickly, if you try to force this, then you might end up breaking the part, or the part will not stick to the build platform at all. It will completely get stuck to FEP, resulting in a failure. So that is one velocity pattern we have to look into. So to get this velocity pattern, we had to do a lot of trials. So the system that we were using here was a stepper motor, NEMA 17 stepper motor. So yeah, so the one you can see here. So the image in the center has these are the holdings. The one in the red you can see are the holdings of the motor, and that motor is directly connected to a lead screw. And when the lead screw rotates, so lead screw are supported by two guided rods. So when the lead screw rotates, the cantilever beam is lifted up slowly. So so this stepper motor was in turn connected to a stepper driver. And then the controller was Arduino Mega that we used. So Arduino Mega was getting these signals from Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pi is the microprocessor that I've used for this particular device. So Raspberry Pi has the HDMI ports. So HDMI ports are the one that you use for uh, connecting to a projector. So Raspberry Pi was connected to a projector. So first thing that you do is flash on that burn-in layer. So show that image of the flash that image of the burn-in layer onto the resin bottom. Then overcure it. Overcuring is curing that resin more than it's curing. When you cure the resin for longer duration, it gets overcured. So when you make sure there is permanent addition of this cured layers onto the build platform, you proceed. You slowly lift, making sure there is no crack in the cured layer. And yeah, so you have to also make sure FEP also doesn't break. So if you pull it very hard, there's chances that FEP might tear. So FEP is very thin. It's usually 0.3 to 0.5 mm. So that is one velocity. So that is a one velocity that we are talking about. The second velocity would be velocity of after separation. You can move at a higher velocity. So once the layer is separated, you move the whole build platform faster, and so you're going to move up and then come down again. So when you are close to the height, so the height here I'm talking about is the resolution height. So the height of each layers. So when you come closer to the height of the layers, so you're going to reduce the velocity so that it smoothly transits from uh, smoothly transits from the top, slowly gets down, and and stops at a height wherein the resin. So it stops at a height where the separation between the build platform and the resin vat is exactly as to the layer height. So, so it's completely covered with resin. And then you expose a new, you flash on the image of the next layer. So the bonding happens between old solidified layer. The old solidified layer is not completely solidified. A little of it will be. So in this uh, layers, so as you can see, the one that sticks to build platform is the one that is highly cured. The one that attaches to the coming layers is cured to a lesser extent compared to the one that is cured at the build platform. So it's why that happens, because as I told you, there is a FEP sheet which is known for its non-stick property. There is oxygen molecules present in those pores of FEP that prevent curing. So you can say uh, the layer that sticks to build platform is solid, and the layer on the other side will be semi-solid, like it's gooey. It will be a little sticky. So the second image is flashed on, and that sticks to the previous layer, and that's how this process is continued. And yeah, so sometimes you have an issue of weak base layers. So what happens is if your print is heavier, so your if the one you see in the images here is, so reason here is the orientation. So you can see the heavy part is on the bottom side. We have to prevent that all the time. So it has to be placed in the other direction. So the heavy part should stick to the build platform and the lighter ones to be faced down. So in case of weak base layers, yeah, as I told you, always what you can do is increase the area of burn-in layers or the attachment layers. So increasing area and increasing the number of layers of burn layers. So like you'll have a high packed. So the height of the attachment layer, if you increase, that will provide you more support. And one more thing that you can do is uh, the attachments or the support that run from the burning layers to the actual body part. You can increase the uh, circular cross section of those support materials. I'll show you how the flow would be in printing something in an SLA. So the first thing that you do is you model your CAD model. So you're going to model something that you want to print in on platforms like SolidWorks or Autodesk Fusion 360, and then you're going to save this model as .stl, and then so the one that you see on the screen right now is Autodesk Mesh Mixer. So here you're going to import that particular part, and yeah, so placing that part directly flat on the surface would be a wrong thing to do because the contact surface is more, and always we have to reduce that. So we change the alignment orientation of this, did it a little bit so that the contact surface is reduced. So once we do that, we're going to generate supports. So as you can see, these are the options. Even you can do that. So there's overhangs. So you're going to set the threshold of angles first, and then yeah. So this is a so this here you can choose the diameter. So the diameter of the supports. Post diameter is the one that comes in the base diameter. Post diameter is the one that comes in the middle, like a stem, and tip diameter is the one that uh, comes and sticks to the actual body part. So yeah, so this is how it would look like. So once your print is ready, so let's say if your print fails, that means your support is weak. So if the contact surface of the part is more, then you have to accordingly increase the diameter, the post diameter. Yeah, so you have to increase the post diameter, and if your part does not stick at all to the build platform, then you'll have to increase the base diameter. Yes. So yeah, so here is a time-lapsed video of the DLP machine that I've built. So you can see it's moving up and down. So a layer is flashed. So DLP is considerably faster than SLA, because instead of drawing that whole one single layer, like laser has to draw that whole image that is there in that particular layer. That is just done in a second using a projector. Image is flashed on, and you end up with this cured layer, and then the build platform moves up, and then this process is uh, continued, so that you end up with the whole body part. Uh, so if there's any questions now, so this is right. The Q&A session, we can start now. Hello. Okay, so uh, yes. So did you use open source firmware coding for DLP printer? Actually, yes. So initially we started with our own flow, as in, so we used the projector separately, flash an image, and then we had a module ready for different velocities. So we used them separately, but later on we came across Nano DLP. That's an open source, and it's very friendly to use also, which in which the projector, the images and motor commands both are combined together, so it'll be easier for you to work with. How much will it cost? So the costliest part in this device is the projector, which costs around 60,000, and the whole device cost would be, uh, I can say, rounded up to 1 lakh. Yes. Any more questions? So yes, so it's available for 30K, but the resolution of this device is higher compared to the one that is available for you in the market, and that uses an LCD screen. And time, so the build time compared to that machine that you're talking about and this, the build time in my case is lesser, and that would be higher. Yes, we can use LCD screens, but the main trade-off with LCD and projector would be the time. So these LCDs have backlight. So because of the backlight, the purity of the resin is reduced. That is thing one to note. And wherein case of the projector, the luminous flux that flows into the resin is higher. So you have this faster curing action, wherein in LCD, the curing is slower. Yeah, sure. So minimum resin volume is okay. So the minimum resin volume is completely up to you. It's depending on what is the size of the part that you like, average size of the part that you're gonna print. So I was looking into, as I told you, I was closely working with a jeweler. So we printed very minute parts for him. So the size of my resin tank was 150 mm by 150 mm. That's a 150 by 150 into 20 mm. So that was the volume. Can you change the resin tank? So yes, we do have an option for changing the resin tank. But again, so the question is, so you would have already fixed a projector. So the projector will throw a focused image at a particular height. So no matter how you increase that size of the resin tank, the projection area will be the same. So if you have to increase the surface, I mean, if you have to increase the area of the resin vat, you will have to move the whole setup away from the projector further and further. So after making the object, what is the status of the resin? There's a possibility of solvent loss. So yeah, so I could print, so on one fill of the resin, that is like filling the resin once, I could print 5 to 6 part without changing the resin. So considering that, it's a really good, uh, there's a repeatability. You don't have to change every time you print. Yes, the remaining resins, yes, we can use the remaining resins. So what is the cost of product produced on this machine? Example per volume or time cost. Okay, so Mojave, Nitin Kumar. So you can contact me on my email. I can give you that exact pricing. So we have a combined model of volume and time, and it will depend on other factors also. As I told you, if the surface area in your print is more, then we will have to use more support materials, and the volume increases, time increases, and also the resin cost increases. Yeah. So can we add other materials such as metal powder? Yes, possibly. Yeah. So we can always something I haven't done. Prashant Katakam. Yeah. So yeah, we can have a very finely grinded metal powder and add it. So one thing here that we have to look into is it shouldn't set. So when you add metal powder, if it's very heavy, it might settle at the bottom. We don't want that to happen. It has to be completely mixed, thoroughly mixed, and then like it has to be uniformly mixed with the resin, and then you should make sure every solidified layer has that exact amount of powder that we require. Okay, can we mix and line while printing? So this the machine is the bottom of machine, so there's literally no space. So are you saying we can sprinkle on the layer? So stop the process, sprinkle the metal layer, and then further continue. I think yeah, this is something we can experiment. Okay. If there's any more queries, yeah. Yes, I'll do that. Share my email address and phone number. So any more questions? Anything regarding SLA, FDM, or FEP, or manufacturing flow? You can ask me or contact me on my email.
Ganesh, there's one more question.
Yeah.
Can you make DIY extruder filament?
Yes, we can do that. So it's pretty straightforward. So DIY extruder filament. So this is for FDM printer, right? So you want a hot end. So when you force a plastic spool inside, you want it to flow out as a liquid, right? Yes, we can do that.
Okay, there are two more questions. Which model of Raspberry Pi is good for this project?
So you can start with any Raspberry Pi 3 version. So there's Raspberry 3B, C. So you can. So I've used B. So I think you can use 4 also. So there's no there's no specific Raspberry Pi that you have to use. You can use anything.
And types of resins used?
So we have printed 2 resins. One is a semi-transparent one, and one is castable resin. So there are many other options also. So depending on so listing them would be, so number one is a transparent resin, and this is a costliest one, and the curing time for this will be more. Then second option would be elastic resin. So it will be like a rubber after prints. Even after post curing, it will still be in rubber state. You can stretch it to reasonable amount. And third option would be very hard resin. So in case your part is getting used in some stress loading condition or mechanical support, then you can use that. And there are resins which are electrically conductive also. So yeah, so these are the options that you got in resins.
Professor Prakash is asking on special materials to get the filaments, and he also needs a lab model for the filament extruder. Are there any bench models?
Yes, I'll share you. I do have few, so I'll share with them. Prakash. Sure.
Any more queries? If there are no questions from the participants, we can conclude.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
I once again thank Mr. Ganesh for such a wonderful presentation. I hope all the questions from the participants are answered. If there are any more questions, we'll just post it to you, Ganesh.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you once again on behalf of the organizers from
Yeah,
BMSC.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.